Hello, friends. Today, I want to talk about 5 strange behaviors that victims of narcissistic abuse engage in if they're in a relationship with a narcissist at the moment. Okay, and the reason I wanted to make this video is because sometimes people can look for information, they can look for red flags in the narcissist. And that can get kind of confusing because there are so many different kinds of narcissists. On top of that, it's a scale, right? And so some people get stuck in trying to figure out what's going on with the other person when the most valuable thing they can do is look at what's going on with them. And there are certain things that people engage in if they're in relationships with malignant narcissists, that if you find yourself doing any of these things, you definitely want to take note, okay? And obviously, the more things you're doing, the more toxic the relationship. And so hopefully this video can kind of help you, because in the end, we may not know exactly what somebody else is, but we do know ourselves. And we can start using ourselves as a place to start gauging. So with that in mind, let's get started. For those that don't know me, my name is Michele. I'm a life and relationship coach. I specialize in overcoming CPTSD and narcissistic abuse. I'm the founder of the Thriver School of Transformation, which is a monthly membership where we meet together on Zoom every week and we work through the side effects. Here's the link for that. The side effects of narcissistic abuse. So if you can use extra support, extra live support, check out that link. All right, let's go into the things that victims of narcissistic abuse tend to do. Number one is they will hide healthy relationships from the narcissist. Okay, so sometimes this starts out subtly, where little by little, you're just not as close with your friends as you used to be, right? Narcissists tend to isolate their victims. And you may not notice that this is taking place because maybe you're surrounded by people all the time. Of course, it's always the people that the narcissist wants you to be around. But where it really shows up as a strange behavior is if you're on the phone with somebody, and I'm not talking about emotional cheating, I'm talking about healthy relationships, like maybe your sibling or your cousin, your aunt, a good friend, a childhood friend that you've known forever. Okay, I'm talking about healthy friendships. And let's say you're on the phone with them and suddenly the narcissist comes in the room and you quickly hang up as if you're doing something wrong. If you feel like you're doing something wrong by talking and or having a healthy conversation with somebody that maybe the narcissist doesn't like, but that is a healthy person for you, and you have to hide that, that is a huge red flag. No one should feel like they have to hide, especially if it's a healthy person and another family member. If you find yourself doing that, you are in a controlling relationship and this person is controlling you and on a toxic level. Number two is you find yourself sacrificing your wants and needs because you think that the toxic person is going to get mad. Now, here's the crazy thing. And here's the part that gets confusing for victims of narcissistic abuse. If you try to say this to the narcissist, or somebody said it to you and now you kind of bring it to their attention, they might say something like, oh, I never told you you had to stop doing that. And you could fall for believing that because technically they didn't. Narcissists don't verbally tell you you can or can't do something. At least a covert narcissist doesn't. Okay, an overt narcissist, yes, they will. But a covert narcissist will use their emotions to emotionally regulate you. So for example, let's say your passion is singing. Let's just say that's something you love to do. What you'll find is that every time you engage in singing around that toxic person, you might get a look, just this weird look of contempt. And if you were raised by narcissistic parents, that look triggers an emotional flashback. It starts making you think you're doing something wrong, and you stop singing and you kind of like start analyzing yourself. Like, what did I do? What's wrong? This person's mad at me. You stop singing and then the person suddenly is really happy with you and you have a really good time. Next time you start singing, there's a negative action that takes place that causes you to stop. And once you stop, there's a positive. The narcissist doesn't use their words to stop you from your passions all the time. They use punishment and rewards with their emotional state. So on an emotional level, by provoking these emotions in you, they're actually entering your subconscious mind and teaching you on a subconscious level that singing is bad. It pairs your brain with singing brings about something negative, and not singing brings about a positive. And the more you engage in that, you're actually rewiring your brain to view singing as a negative. And this often shows up after you're out of the relationship and you want to go back to your passions and you feel like you can't. And that's because through the way that they do that with their punishment and rewards, right? With their emotional acceptance, emotional withdrawal, when you're doing or not doing what they want, you actually form beliefs and paired associations that stay with you, whether you're with the narcissist or not. Now, I don't want to, make that sound like all is lost forever, because you can do the inner work to work through that. But I do want to say that that is something very common that happens. So if you find yourself constantly, you feel this desire to do something, but then you're like, no, I can't because, this person will get mad. And every time you want to do something and you find yourself stopping because the other person is going to get upset or withdraw their approval of you, they are controlling you, and that is emotional abuse. Number 3 is a hard one for friends that are watching you in this relationship, right? And they're watching you change and they're watching you lose yourself. And maybe they're an eyewitness to something that takes place that was wrong. And they go to support you. A strange behavior of somebody that's in a toxic relationship, an emotionally and psychologically abusive relationship, especially with a covert narcissist, is they will defend the abuser. And this is a hard one to understand for family and friends, that the more you try to help the person, the more they cling to the abuser. And that all has to do with the psychological manipulation that they're undergoing. Okay, they are real empathic people, but the abuser is using that to twist their reality, to make them think that if somebody is telling them something about the abuse, that they're trying to destroy the relationship. Because remember, one part of narcissistic abuse, there's a level of paranoia that narcissists have. There's tons of reasons as to why they have that. To me, I think a lot of their paranoia comes from the reality that they know that they're hiding who they really are. They know that they have agendas and reasons as to why they're doing what they do that they don't want you to know or anyone else to know. So they're always on guard to hide the truth. Okay. So one of the things they do is they make the victims think that people are out to destroy their relationship with you. The reality is that it might be that your family or friends are concerned because they see the changes you're making. The narcissist twists that normal concern and makes you think that that person is trying to take away something good. And then they'll love bomb you and they'll confuse you. And so, long story short, the strange behavior is that you will defend the abuse. And sometimes it's confusing, like you're defending it, but in the back of your mind, you're like, this is wrong, something's weird. But you find yourself almost compulsively defending. Number 4 is something that, you have to do some self-examination on to really understand. But if you were to examine your thoughts and just be present with what you think about throughout the day, what many victims of narcissistic abuse will find is that as time goes on, this is the thing, it doesn't happen overnight, but as time goes on, your thoughts are less and less on you, on your life, on what makes you happy, on your passions, on your hopes, on your dreams. And it all becomes about what will make the narcissist happy. Instead of, oh, I want to do that, I'm excited about that, it becomes, oh, I want to do that, oh, wait, What will he or she think? He or she might get mad. Maybe I shouldn't because no, they don't like that. Okay, I won't do that. And if you were to really go within, if you were to think about, analyze, are you being present with yourself, or are you constantly finding yourself either looking at or thinking about how they're going to respond to something you want to do, or trying to figure out why they responded the way they did the day before? In other words, you start a cycle of rumination. Your brain starts going into this thought process of rumination that becomes super addictive. People can spend years ruminating only to realize that they were never really living. Ruminating is not living, okay? Your thoughts are revolving around someone else all the time, how they might or might not perceive something, or why they did something that doesn't make sense. And when our mind is spinning like that, from future to past, it's never in the present, and life is just passing you by. The last behavior that I'm going to mention that you can analyze, self-examine yourself, okay, is your ability to trust yourself, or your inability to trust yourself, okay? If you find that you used to be able to make decent decisions, and even if they weren't the best decisions, you could stand behind your decisions, because whether they were the best or not, you learned from them, right? You're not perfect. You can recognize when you made good decisions, your bad decisions, you learned from. But now suddenly it's like you can't make a decision. And you may feel like you need the other person, the narcissist in your life, to agree with you 100% in order for you to feel like you're allowed to make a decision. In other words, at somewhere along the way, you lose the ability to make decisions for yourself. And if you won't allow yourself to make a decision unless the other person 100% sees exactly how you see it, feels exactly how you feel, then you can't make that decision. And that develops because that's the thinking of a narcissist. There only exists one perspective, theirs. And they treat you that way to the point that you lose the reality that there actually are several different perspectives. There's that person's perspective, there's my perspective, and somebody else might have a completely different perspective. But you lose the ability to remember that truth, and you feel like unless the narcissist agrees with you, then you can't make the decision. And so sometimes how this will show up is you'll ask people, several people, what should I do? And you're getting feedback, and you're getting feedback, and you're still searching and still searching, because it's almost like unless it comes from the toxic person, you feel like you can't trust it. So if you can't make a decision from within, and if you feel like you can't make a decision unless the narcissist agrees with you, then you are being controlled and manipulated. Forget about labels, whether the person is a narcissist or not. Each one of the things I mentioned is a form of coercive and emotional abuse. So look at yourself. And like I said, forget the label and start taking responsibility and control for your life. Okay, if you are an adult, child of narcissistic parents, or if you're in a relationship and you're experiencing any of these things, the sooner you can start recognizing what's going on and start taking responsibility as to what you are going to allow in your life from this point on, the sooner you can start feeling more and more empowered. And it's a process. It's not easy to break out of narcissistic abuse. So remember to find resources that help. I've recently, about 6 months ago, we started an online community where we meet live weekly so that people can have support as they're learning how to break free of these dynamics. So if you want to check it out, again, I'll leave the link here to the Thriver School of Transformation. But regardless of the resource that you use, start looking for ways to empower yourself and recognize that the toxic person isn't going to want you to be empowered. That's the hard part. The more we heal, the stronger we get. It's almost like the relationship gets rocky. And it's too easy to think, oh, I'm doing something wrong. But because look at what's happening with the relationship, when the reality is if you're getting healthier and stronger and you're developing healthier relationship skills, if it's causing your relationship to go in reverse, then what's the other person doing to bring to the table healthy behaviors and healthy relationship skills? And something to think about.